What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video during episode. This time at the table without food. I'm just sitting here because I am. How unique is that in the last few weeks? But okay, today I want to talk about the notes that I took from the Huberman podcast that I watched. It was the episode called "How to Grow from Doing Hard Things," and it was with Micheal Easter. Easy. I didn't take a lot of notes because I watched like the first half, I think, without taking notes or with taking one note, and I was like, oh, maybe I should take notes of the whole thing and not just a few things that I like. So yeah, that's what I did in the news, or in another episode that I'm watching. It's not newer, but it's a different one. Yeah. But first, talk about the one that I finished, the notes from that. So yeah. First note: prevalence-induced concept changed. The definition of a concept shifts as the frequency of its occurrence changes, right? And I did explain this to a friend already, I think, I think it was a friend. And basically, if I have to say it in my own words, or I actually like the example, basically when the amount of times that something happens out of two possible scenarios, usually, like when the frequency changes of the events, then the way you define it also changes. So for example, it was way more than 100 pictures, but basically let's do the example with 100 pictures. 100 pictures are shown, or 100 different businesses are shown, and the test subject has to say whether the business looks ethical or unethical based on whatever it was, the website or whatever it was, right? And basically in the first half, so for the first 50 pictures, they showed an equal amount of unethical and ethical ones. But then they decreased the amount of ethical ones, of unethical ones. Say it again. So now in the second half, there were less unethical ones. And so what happened is the way they defined unethical changed. Like it got a bit broader, kind of, you know what I mean? Like instead of, this is clearly unethical and this is clearly ethical, they started saying, this is like, there's just this one point that's unethical, so the business is unethical just because they have one point that's unethical. Yeah, kind of like that. I hope you get it. Yeah. And also something that I remember that I didn't write down though, which is like, people always find problems because that's just how we're wired. And so that's why when objectively you're in a bit better situation than someone else, that doesn't mean you will be happy. Yeah, because you will still find problems in your better environment, your better surroundings. Yeah, that you will have to deal with, I guess. Yeah. Next note, 2% rule. 2% of people choose to do something slightly harder that will benefit them in the long run, while 98% of people choose to do the easy thing. Pretty simple. Example: taking the stairs or the elevator. 2% take the stairs. I did take the stairs while we were like on the weekend when we were visiting, a bunch of my mom's friends and grandparents and stuff. I was taking the stairs then, yeah. Here not. It's five stories, 5 floors that I have to climb the stairs off, and usually when I leave, I come back either after exercise or with groceries. And so In that sense, I'm not part of the 2% when it comes to that, because that is already draining enough, I believe. So then the Misogi challenge, which is once a year do something really hard, like where you have a 50% chance of failing, but where you won't die. Yeah, pretty simple. Basically, pretty simple. But like that's really hard in the sense that there's like a point when you're like, oh my, I can't keep going. I can't keep going anymore. This is the limit. And then you keep going, and then you're like, oh, so wait, so I'm still going, but like I thought the limit was there. So basically my beliefs about my limits have been wrong. Oh, where else are they wrong? Basically that's the purpose of this, which I think is a good idea. And it's crazy for like it's so different for everyone. Like for the Micheal Easter, what was his name, I think. Yeah, for him it was like running for a good amount, I think. But for someone else, it was eating sushi. And it is so crazy. But basically, they also said something how you should, every now and then, when you have time, when you have the possibility, you should go into nature for 2 to 3 days. I remember that too, to kind of reset your brain when it comes to these different things that I do not remember anymore. One is your sleep cycle, I think, though. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Was it serotonin? I don't know. I don't want to say nonsense. Yeah. And just in general, that from doing hard things, you will, like, when you do hard things, you will be more grateful. And the example was basically the Micheal Easter went to Antarctica for a bit more than a month, and obviously had no warm water, right? And then after a month, he came back and was like, "Oh my God, warm water!" Basically, doing hard things, you don't have to make it as extreme, but like doing hard things makes you be grateful, makes you realize how good you actually have it. That's the thought behind it. And since you will look for problems anyways, even if you're in an objectively better environment, you will be more happy when you do something hard, because when you do easy things, obviously you're not going to be happy, and you're not going to build any, like, that's my opinion now, like, you're not going to build confidence if you just do easy things all your life. Like, yeah, if you don't ever do something hard, you're losing out on stuff, important stuff. Yeah. Okay, then link rewards to effort and not to wins. If you link rewards to wins, you will only feel good about the wins. When the effort is what matters to keep doing something, when in reality, or so, I don't know. When in reality, yeah, basically you should only celebrate wins. Like, you should also feel good when you did something, even though it was objectively, like, okay, in that sense, I'm not sure if I understood this correctly, but I'm just going to say how I understood it. You see, for example, training. Not every training day is going to be the same. Some training days you will be able to hit your PR, like hit a new PR multiple times. On some days you can't even bench the amount that you start with. Usually, on some days it's like, that is also so interesting. Don't expect, like, you're not a machine, bro. Don't expect to work the same every single day. Even as a man, women have it way harder in that sense, obviously. But as a man, you usually wake up and feel the same. That's at least a good thing. But it doesn't mean that you will be able to perform the same way. And then, this is very interesting. Humans running and carrying weight, fat loss. Okay. Walking with weights will make you burn more calories than running per kilometer or whatever, or mile, whatever, and you will lose mostly fat and just a little muscle, but while running you will lose both. And this is so interesting. I also told this fat friend of mine who's trying to lose weight, I'm like, bro, do you still go on walks? He's like, yeah. Bro, carry weights, because apparently you lose more fat while carrying weights and walking. I mean, it makes obviously sense, but more fat than when you go for a run, and he goes for a run like multiple times a week too. So that's really interesting. Yeah, especially, yeah. Then low friction and high speed, or low resistance high speed, that's the key to gambling, social media, and dating apps. And that's also really, like, that's honestly so crazy. The example the Micheal Easter guy gave was how gambling evolved, basically. Because it started as, oh, you spin the wheel, whatever, or you do something physical, right? And then it transformed into, oh, you pull a lever, and then it turned into you press a button. And then high speed obviously means the higher the speed, the more you can gamble in a minute. And that's so crazy. He said in the beginning it was like 400 or so games per minute, which turned, when it was the button press, into 900 games per minute. And that is very crazy. More than doubled the amount of games played. Just because, low, like, there's no resistance. That's also why, like, like when you hear a bit about, website development or whatever, people tell you rather make one website, where you're not getting redirected the whole time, where you just can scroll for a while or infinitely, or where, it's very simple to buy something, instead of being like, okay, I'm gonna click this, and then you need to do all these things and then you can buy. No, instead it's like, I added to my cart and then I pay for it. Like, kind of like that. The less resistance there is, the more, the better it is for, like, the person who's hosting that, or who's, the person who's going to make money off of it. So that's crazy. And all, like, social media, it's like you scroll infinitely long, right? It does not end. It does not have an end. You can do it at a very high speed, and there's no resistance. Literally all you have to do is this. This is all you have to do, and you get dopamine. This is all you have to do. Look at bro, I can just, and that's yeah, that's scary, I guess, in that sense. And now I have to go. Yeah, perfectly, because that's all the notes that I have from this podcast and all that I remember. Because not all of those were notes that I wrote down. Yeah, but crazy stuff. I low-key really hooked on Huberman podcast. Like, it's so interesting, because I never was able to, like, watch podcasts, because I was like, nah, like, I want to take notes, so I have to focus on it, but, like, it's too boring for me to just focus on it. I was too overstimulated at that point. But now, no problem. It's really interesting right now, which is a good thing. Finally at that point, I guess. Yeah. Bro. So yeah, gotta go now, because you heard the alarm, and that's all for today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.